Welcome to Let's Clear the Air, a podcast sponsored by the Allergy, Asthma, and Sinus Center, dedicated to educating listeners about allergies, asthma, and immunology.
Welcome to this episode of Let's Clear the Air, all things allergy, asthma, and immunology. I have the pleasure of being here with Dr. Phil Jones. Hello, Dr. Jones.
Hello, Marcel. It's great to be back again.
Oh, we're glad to have you. We're going to do a quick little segment for our listeners about oral allergy syndrome. And I specifically have asked Dr. Jones to do this because if you are following our pollen count or receiving our pollen count in your inbox, you may have noticed that we have some very high tree pollen. And I think we've had it now for almost a week solid. So, Dr. Jones, would you educate us a little bit what tree pollen has to do with OAS and what OAS is for those who don't know?
Yeah, it makes you wonder what could tree pollen and fruits, or nuts for that matter, have in common. So, Marcella, throughout nature, there's a lot of conserved proteins, whether we're talking about pollen of a tree, or for that matter, grass or weed pollen, and fruits and vegetables. And our immune system, when we have a pollen allergy, we become allergic to a certain protein in that pollen. And in trees, and particularly birch tree in particular, if you become allergic to that pollen, there are sometimes that protein can be found in other fruits and vegetables. Okay? So that what happens is when I eat, say for example, a fresh apple, and I'm very birch pollen allergic, then my mouth starts to itch and burn, maybe even my throat a little bit. So people often show up in my clinic and say, Dr. Jones, I'm allergic to apples. But it's really not. They're really allergic to the pollen in the tree, birch pollen, and that same protein is found in the fresh apple. And when they eat it, the immune system's telling them, what are you doing? Why are you eating pollen? It just doesn't, you can't tell the difference, okay? So rarely is it a life-threatening problem. It doesn't cause their tongue to swell, or their throat to swell closed. There are some rare reports of that. It's not something we usually have them carry EpiPens for. But it's very, it's a big burden to these patients. I mean, how would you like to go throughout life? I can't eat apple. And they can react with tree nuts and peanuts even. They can have the oral allergy syndrome, or what some people call the pollen food allergy syndrome.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it is sad, frustrating, because you think about it starting in spring and going through summer, that's when all the fruit seems more abundant and fresh.
All of our favorite stuff.
But then also that's when your tree and grass pollens are really high. So you have to kind of be aware of that.
Yeah. So, that's true. So people who have this severe pollen allergy, whether we're talking tree pollen or grass pollen or weed pollen, there are a unique group of fruits and vegetables that they can cross-react with. And you're exactly right. It's when all those things come in season, the spring and summer, when we like to eat those things that it's we can't.
Yeah. And we'll put a link to, I think I've seen some really helpful charts as to what trees and grasses are associated with what fruits, so we can definitely link that.
There's a lot of those, and they're fun to look at, and it just a lot of people, lay patients, don't know about that connection. And so I meet a lot of pollen allergic patients, not because they came because they were sneezing or coughing or wheezing. They came because when they eat certain fresh fruits or vegetables, again, their mouth burns and itches.
Now, I have heard there is one easy fix. Correct me if this is wrong, but if you cook the fruit or vegetable or nut, does that take away or break down that protein? Is that correct?
So what that does, Marcella, is when you heat it, the shape of that protein changes enough to where the immune system doesn't detect it. So, for example, if it's my apple patient who has birch pollen allergy, eats apple, itchy mouth and throat, if they put it in an apple pie and bake it, they can eat that with no problems, okay? So, no, I'm not sure all fruits are good cooked, though. Yeah.
Well, maybe not all, but some people might prefer it in an apple pie.
Yeah, better than none, for
That's
sure.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you so much. We just wanted to touch on that since we might have some folks out there who are experiencing that itchy mouth and maybe a little coughing or some weird sensation going on when they eat those raw fruits.
Absolutely. That link will be very helpful.
All right. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's our pleasure. That does it for this episode of Let's Clear the Air.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Let's Clear the Air. Please consider following this podcast, and remember, if you want helpful and accurate information about allergies and asthma, our allergy experts are here to clear the air.